Imagine an art gallery so big it covers nearly 200 square miles of desert. But there is a strange rule. None of the art can be seen by anyone standing on the ground. This is a real place, etched into the dry plains of southern Peru. It is a mystery carved into the earth itself. From high in the air you can see hundreds of colossal figures. There is a hummingbird with a 300-foot wingspan, a perfect spider, and a monkey with a swirling tail. These are the Nazca Lines, giant pictures so vast they can only be truly seen from the sky. For thousands of years they have waited silently for us to find their secret. The people who made these amazing drawings were the Nazca people. They lived in this harsh land from around 100 BCE to 800 CE. Their world was one of the driest places on our planet. It is a coastal desert where rain is something people could only dream about. But the Nazca were not simple. They were clever farmers and engineers. They found ways to grow food and build communities in a place that seemed impossible to live in. They understood their difficult world, and their art was a part of that understanding. The size of their work is hard to even imagine. It is not just a few animal pictures. There are over 800 straight lines, some running perfectly straight for miles and miles. There are also 300 huge shapes like triangles and spirals, and 70 giant figures of animals and plants. The lines are not just big, they are also incredibly exact. Some lines go over hills and through valleys without ever bending from their straight path. How could people with simple tools create something so perfect on such a huge scale? This is the central question. Why would a whole culture spend so much time and effort making art that they themselves could never fully see from the ground? It is a puzzle that has called to explorers and scientists for decades. The way they made the lines was actually very simple, but also very smart. The desert floor is covered with a dark layer of reddish-brown pebbles, rich in a material called iron oxide. This dark layer is like a thin blanket over the ground. The Nazca people simply removed this dark top layer of stones. This uncovered the lighter-colored earth underneath. Because there is almost no rain and very little wind in this desert, these simple drawings have been saved for nearly 2,000 years, like a message left for the future. For a long time, this mystery made people think of wild ideas. Some said the lines must be giant runways for alien spaceships. Others believed they were messages meant for visitors from other worlds. It is an exciting thought, a story of ancient astronauts visiting Earth. But this idea sells the Nazca people short. It misses their true genius. The real story, which scientists are slowly putting together, is even more amazing. It is not about visitors from the stars, but about the deep connection between a people and the world they lived in. For a long time, the best guess was that the lines pointed to the stars. People thought it was a huge map of the sky, a calendar to track the sun and moon for farming. This idea was made famous by a German woman named Maria Rieche. She was a mathematician who fell in love with the mystery. People called her the Lady of the Lines. And she truly was. For more than 50 years, she lived right there in the desert, dedicating her entire life to studying and protecting these amazing drawings. She learned everything about them, treating them like a precious, fragile treasure. Imagine this woman, all alone in the huge, quiet desert. With just a simple broom, she would carefully sweep away the sand and dust that the wind blew over the lines. She did this for decades, saving this ancient art for all of us to see. Her work was the first big step in understanding this puzzle. But as more scientists studied the lines, they found a problem with the star map idea. Yes, some of the lines do point to where the sun rises or where important stars appear, but with hundreds and hundreds of lines pointing in every direction, it turns out that some of them will line up with stars just by pure luck. The theory of a giant sky calendar just didn't explain most of the lines. It was a beautiful idea, and Maria Rieche's work was super important. But it wasn't the final answer. The secret of the Nazca was still hidden, waiting in the dust of the Peruvian plains. The real purpose was something even more important to their daily lives. So, if the answer wasn't in the sky, maybe it was hidden in the ground itself. Think about where the Nazca people lived. It's one of the driest places on Earth. In a world with almost no rain, what is the most precious thing you can imagine? It's water. Archaeologists started to notice something amazing. Many of the lines, especially the huge triangle and rectangle shapes, seemed to point directly toward sources of water. They aimed for rivers that flowed down from the Andes Mountains. Even more incredible, some pointed to spots where water flowed secretly, deep underground. This was the big clue. The lines weren't just art, they were connected to the very thing the Nazca needed to survive. The drawings were not a message for the stars, but a conversation with the earth, a desperate plea for the gift of water. This leads to the idea that most scientists believe today. The Nazca Lines were not made to be seen from above. They were made to be walked upon from below. They were giant, holy pathways for religious ceremonies. The Nazca people would walk along these lines in big groups. Imagine a long parade of people walking slowly and quietly along these perfectly straight paths for miles and miles. These weren't roads to get from one town to another. They were spiritual roads, meant to take people on a journey to connect with their gods. And what about the giant animal figures, like the hummingbird and the spider? Those were likely special sacred places. The long walks might have ended at these figures, where the most important rituals were performed. It was a giant map for prayer, etched into the world itself. Imagine your entire world, your whole community, working together on a single, giant message. Not a message made of words, but of pictures. Pictures so big they are drawn onto the world itself, a silent prayer sent to the sky. And what amazing pictures they were. Not just simple shapes, but huge, perfect animals. A hummingbird frozen in flight, a monkey with a long, curly tail, a spider waiting in its web. Each one was a character in this silent story, a special symbol in their giant prayer on the ground. These were not random drawings. Each animal was a powerful idea, a piece of their world. The spider, for example, was a symbol of rain and things that grow. To the Nazca people, a spider was a sign that the wet season was coming, a time of life and food. The monkey was another powerful sign of water. Monkeys did not live in the dry desert. They lived in the wet Amazon jungle, far to the east. Drawing a monkey was like asking for the jungle's life-giving water to come to their thirsty home. When we see this, we understand the truth. The Nazca Lines were never a message for us. They were a window into the soul of an ancient people, a very personal talk between them and the powerful world around them. Think about the huge effort it took. Hundreds of people working for years to make giant pictures they could never see completely. It was an amazing act of faith, a whole group of people working together to talk to the forces of nature. And here is the most incredible part. The story is not over. For a long time we thought we had found all the lines. But the desert does not give up its secrets so easily. With new tools like drones that fly high above the plains, we are finding more. Hundreds of smaller, older pictures are now being seen for the first time. The Nazca Art Gallery is much bigger than anyone ever dreamed. These drones can take thousands of pictures. Smart computers can then look for shapes that our eyes might miss. It is like having a new kind of vision, letting us see faint marks left by people who lived thousands of years ago. Every new line we find is like a new word in their story. The Nazca people are not gone and silent. Their giant prayer carved into the earth is still waiting. And we are only just now learning how to truly listen.